Hello, everyone. My name is John. This is my story of the day post. I'm sure you've all heard the story by now, but the topic of my post will be based on the sighting of the first Chinese spy balloon. There have been multiple other sightings since the first one, but I'm just going to focus on the initial story. I also just did a little research and fact checked some of the information just to make sure the news stories are accurate, because just because there's multiple posts or newsreels about them doesn't always make these stories true. I don't know, I just want to make sure I'm giving you all the right information. For example, there's some people tweeting that the government has been shooting down UFOs as in alien aircraft. I haven't found any other sources to confirm that information, so that won't be included in today's talking points. So the first sighting of the main balloon was on January 28th, according to CBS News. The balloon entered Alaskan airspace and slowly drifted over Canada and eventually floated into the continental United States. Soon after that, it started to pick up some momentum in the news and everyone began to talk about it. They were saying it was floating over Midwestern United States in early February, but it obviously had been floating over the country for several days before it hit mainstream media, because the balloons just don't appear out of nowhere. Ultimately, as you may know, it was shot down by an F-22 fighter jet off the coast of South Carolina, which is actually where I'm living right now. And while they were recovering debris from the balloon, 3 more objects were shot down in a span of 2 days. One was over Alaska, one over Canada, and one over the Great Lakes region. These 3 have been referred to as unidentified objects and high-altitude objects, according to the U.S. government, and they haven't disclosed too much information on these so far. So obviously one of the main news elements that would draw anyone's attention to the story is the oddity of it, because when was the last time a fighter jet had to shoot down a hot air balloon? The situation itself is so rare, it automatically draws media attention. I would say it's probably one of the strangest news stories out there today. Also, there's the immediacy impact. As soon as it hit the news, it was all over social media and everyone was talking about it. And in this aspect, when I'm talking about immediacy, I'm referring to the first few news stories that broke about the balloon before it was a well-known topic and not when it was first entering the United States. The impact on this was also great because it had been reported as a threat to our national security, and several news sites claimed that it was flying right over our missile silos in the Midwest. And when they recovered what was left of the balloon, they had found some electrical components and wiring that may have been used for surveillance. The conflict aspect here seems low because at first the Chinese government claimed they had no idea what was going on, but now as the story is developing, we're starting to see that it did in fact come from China, but the other 3 UFOs have little to no information on where they came from. Finally, there wasn't anything famous about it when it came out, but I would say it's definitely famous now because they're putting pictures of the balloon on hats and t-shirts, and it's all over the internet. What really drew me to the story the first time was the fact that a majority of Americans were like me when they first heard the story, and it was about halfway across the country. Like I said before, it's just an odd story to hear. A floating hot air balloon spotted over Montana is just something that you don't hear about every day. Also for me, once I heard the story the first time, it seemed like the next day it was all over the news and social media. Everyone was talking about it. So of course I had to follow the story and see what else I could learn about it. I would go into work and ask everyone if they had heard of the giant balloon flying across the United States. It was a huge topic of discussion for about a whole week. Not to mention the memes and the jokes that came out about it were also pretty entertaining. And it was just the strangest thing that anyone had ever heard about in a long time. Finally, it seemed like it was pretty close to home for me because I'm currently in the Air National Guard for New Jersey. So when something like this happens, it kind of piques my interest. I always wonder if it's something that I'm going to have to deal with at some point in the future. But I don't have any top secret security clearance, so I don't know too much insider information about the story. I'm also currently living in South Carolina, so as soon as it was shot down, I was wondering if I could get a first-hand look at the famous balloon. So like I keep saying, it's one of those stories you don't hear about too often, and it was very interesting to talk about. Thank you.